Today is show you how to whip the summertime dog days. It's a time of year a lot of people quit fishing because fishing can become very, very hard. The fish get bunched up, move a little deeper, and those honey holes, they're not the easiest thing to find. We may not kill them today, but we're going to sure try, and what we're going to try to do is take a Carolina rig and some of the other techniques and get out on those breaks, get out on the points, some of the typical summertime type structure we're going to try to show you. We're looking at a day today that's supposed to get over 100 degrees, so we're not going to have a lot of fun temperature-wise out there, but I bet if we find those fish, we're going to have a lot of fun, because once in a while it's an every cast situation with summertime structure fish. So hopefully today will be one of them days where we can show you one of the easiest ways of catching them, and that's the Carolina rig. There we go. Nice fish, big old fish. Nice bass on that old Carolina rig. Laying right off that ledge. Don't you dare jump. Don't you dare jump. You're going to jump. Yes. I knew you were going to jump. You're not that strong. I got you now. I've got you now. Come here. Come here. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come here. There you go. Nice bass. Man, I wished every fish I'd catch was hooked like that. Right in the top of the mouth. I'm gonna need a pliers. There we go. What a nice fish, folks. That's a Carolina Fish Deluxe. Summertime bass. There you go. Go back down there and join your buddies. Changed it up a little bit. I went to a little darker lizard to give them a different look, and boom, right off the bat, get a nice fish to bite it. And I bet we catch another one on that same color. That fish, I actually had the bait sitting still. Brought it down that ledge, and I just let it sit there just for a couple of seconds, and all of a sudden the line just tightened up. He actually grabbed the bait as it was sitting there. And that's not unusual for this technique. You'll have that happen quite a bit. Okay, we're set and ready to go again.
Class with Denny Brauer is in session, and it's being brought to you by Evinrude Outboards, powered by fixed fuel injection, and by Daiwa Extreme Performance Tank.
There we go. There's a good one. Same deal, just letting it sit, and he picked it up. Yeah, that feels like a nice bass. Yeah, that's a good fish. I'll take those kind any old time. Yeah, sirree. Same pattern, twice in a row. Come here, little guy. You're not that big. Come aboard. Yeah. Boy, you're hooked good. Where is my pliers? Man, in the tournament, I wished I had every one of them hooked like that. That old Mustad Megabite hook. Flat does its job. Nice bass. You know, the last two fish, folks, I drug it off the ledge, and actually when it got to the bottom, I just let it sit. I didn't move it, didn't do anything with it, and all of a sudden, you wouldn't feel the tap or anything. It just tightened up, and they'd start surging with it. It's kind of a different pattern, but once in a while, those little subtle things and patterns within the pattern are the whole key to catching fish. You can go out and, you know, throw a crankbait all day. If you don't figure out that they're only hitting it when you're stopping it, you're not going to catch them. Same with the Carolina rig. If you can figure out that certain little retrieve, you're going to catch a lot more fish. And that fish may have told us something. That may have told us how to fish the rest of the day on some of these places to really get them better fish to bite. I'm sure going to leave it set for a little longer next cast. I know that. probably one of the most efficient ways to cover a lot of water and also to cover deep water, but not necessarily just deep water. I've seen Carolina rigs very effective in that 2 to 3 foot zone where you've got them big flat points and you want to cover a lot of water in a hurry. And I know some people are confused about exactly what a Carolina rig is, and I'm not much of an artist here, but picture this as being your main line coming down. You've got a sinker of some sort, an egg or bullet weight that you've threaded up, and then you've got a little glass bead or a metal bead, and then you've got your swivel that's right there, and then you get your line coming off of that, and you've got your hook. You probably got a lizard of some sort on the end of it. All by itself. There's no weight attached to that. So some of your soft plastic baits, as you're dragging it on the bottom, that's actually going to come up and it's going to lift off the bottom. It's going to become more visible to fish. If you're moving it real slow, it's actually dragging on the bottom behind, because that silt trail, they're going to come hunting for this. This rig actually makes a lot of noise on the bottom because of that heavy slip sinker that you're dragging through the silt or over the rocks. Very effective. One effective retrieve with it is a slow, steady reel. I like to fish it kind of with my rod tip. I've always found that I can feel the bottom, feel the bait, and feel for the strike a lot easier by pulling the bait with the actual rod. Feel with the rod, and then take up your slack with the reel. There's one right there. There, we got him. Oh, that's a nice fish. Running at me. What are you going to do, fish? What are you going to do? You're not as big as you think you are. Come aboard. And you could see, as I was pulling that bait, we got in a little rough spot on the bottom. And boom, you could probably see the rod tip flex when that fish actually hit the bait. But you can just feel so much better with that rod tip than by reeling. Recommend I like a graphite rod for this particular technique because it's so much more sensitive. And the actual rod I use when I'm Carolina rigging is the same rod I use when I'm flipping and pitching. Because you got that big old line, that leader, which makes it a little difficult to cast. And the longer rod helps you cast it without it getting tangled up. So I pretty well stick with the 7.5 foot flipping stick. This isn't a real stiff rod, but makes a great Carolina rig rod. Yes! There's a certain little place on the bottom here, folks, that when I drag it off this point, pull it down that ledge, there's some rough rock there. And as soon as I get to pulling it through that rough rock, it just loads up. They are really bunched up right there. And I know there's got to be a big one in there somewhere with these little guys. Although these little guys are fun. They can keep biting too. I kind of like jerking. It doesn't make a lot of difference what size they are. Bigger the better, naturally. Got me a little line right there on the point, right off that one laying down tree. If you make that same cast, 5 out of 6 casts, you're going to catch a fish. If the wind picks up while you're out fishing, you're decreasing the light penetration that's going down the water. A lot of times I'll go to a darker jig or a darker lizard or whatever the bait is. I go to a darker shade of that bait because of the decreased light penetration. If it's been windy and you're catching them on a certain bait and all of a sudden it slicks out, you can actually see further down the water. And I'm going to the lighter color bait. So I might go to a watermelon color rather than a darker brown like I have on right now. And that's what I was using earlier before the wind came up. The dark brown seems to be working real well right now. Bait options in Carolina rigging are endless. There's the centipedes out. The lizard is probably the most popular. Your little short worms, big worms during the summertime can be good. Say you're out there on a point catching them crankbaiting, or catching them on a topwater bait, or catching them structure fishing a jig, and suddenly those fish quit biting, you should have something like this rigged up, or rig it up and let them look at it because it's totally different. And it's a proven tournament fishing technique, and it's a proven technique for not only catching numbers of fish, but this will also catch you some big fish. I love it in pre-spawn. When those fish are staging to move up to spawn, they'll get out on them flat points. You don't know exactly where they're at. You can find exactly where they're at with this because you can cover so much water in a hurry. I'm about the spot right there where that last strike came from. Always make sure you keep in contact with that bottom. One of the neatest things I feel about Carolina rigging is you can learn a tremendous amount. There's one. Boy, when I moved it, he took. That's a good fish. Yeah, fighting fish. These fish aren't that big, but boy, they sure pull. That's a better one right there. Yeah, that's a nice fish. Jump, 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 jump. What a neat place. I think that's 3 casts and 3 fish right in a row. Oh, you're done. You're done. Yeah, that's a big old fish. Boy, he was hooked nice, too. When we get done catching them on this place, we'll go into detail, and I'll show you exactly how I'm rigging up. I think that can make a difference, too. Nice fish. Time for a new lizard. It's very, very simple. I think some people think it's a lot more complicated than what it is, but this is my favorite sinker here, the egg-style slip sinker. Usually a 3/4 ounce is where I'm starting. We use them all the way up to 1 ounce and as light as a 1/4 ounce with these rigs, depending on what size bait and how deep we're fishing. But that's what you start with. You slide that up your main line, then you get yourself a little bead, slide it on, and get your swivel, just a barrel-type swivel. I like to use the polymer knot to attach my line to the swivel. And then this particular knot right here, this is where I use the improved clinch knot to tie the leader line on. And your leader, anywhere from 2 to 4 foot is probably the average length. I like one about 2.5 feet. I've seen guys use them 6, 8 feet, and that's fine, but boy, you're talking about a hard rig to throw when you get that much leader out there. That little Mustad Megabite hook, that's the hook I use for all my Carolina rigging, and you can see it's kind of a different shape, different design, but it does a great job of hooking fish, and it really holds your bait on straight. Just start out by putting it in to the bend, then bring it out, bring it on around, turn your hook, and that right there, that's what holds your lizards from sliding down, that little kink in the hook. Push it up, just like if you were rigging a Texas-style worm, but here you push the hook all the way through. So you got it on the back side, and then you push the bait forward, and you kind of just bury that point in there. The lizard or the worm, whatever it is, still hangs straight, but now when that bass just barely presses down on it, you can see the point just pops up, and it makes it a lot easier to hook those fish. And that's what you got. You got your complete rig right here, where your sinker is actually sliding free, gives them a better chance of actually inhaling it without feeling all that weight there. But that heavy weight gets you down to the bottom where you're continually making contact. It's almost like a mini locator. You can tell when you're in a rough bottom, when you're in rocks, and you can cover a lot of water in a hurry with a Carolina rig, whereas if you're fishing a Texas rig plastic worm, you can't maintain that bottom contact quite as well. And I think one of the reasons over the years that this has been so effective is this heavy slip sinker dragging through the mud or the bottom, whatever, creating kind of a silt trail. That's got to help to attract some of those fish. One other type of sinker I will use is just a regular bullet type sinker, and I usually go to that when I'm fishing in heavier vegetation. It doesn't hang up quite as bad. It'll part the vegetation and come through easier, and that's about as difficult as I make that. Another style hook some folks like to use is just the straight kink type, but of the two, I definitely prefer the Megabite right there. That is a better hooking hook. You're going to land a higher percentage of fish with that particular bait. Favorite lures to fish, number one, without a doubt, I think in everybody's
tackle box would probably be the lizard. It's got a lot of publicity over the last few years. A lot of tournaments have been won Carolina rigging lizards. It's not only a pre-spawn type of technique, as you are going to see, and as we've already done some today, it's a great technique for catching summertime bass too. Color-wise, if you're around a lot of shad, the cotton candy color is an excellent choice, especially in clear water. These are the two most popular colors used, the pumpkin and the watermelon color. And a lot of them get their tails dipped in chartreuse. There's just kind of a little teaser behind the bait right there, but those are three great colors to stick with when you're looking at the lizard. 6-inch being the most popular size, bar none. Another popular bait is what they call just the kind of do-nothing worm type baits. These really don't do a whole lot in the water, but they emulate a minnow, so to speak, and that's a good choice for Carolina rigging, along with your centipede type lures and your smaller worms. I've seen guys Carolina rig 8, 9, 11-inch worms. There's nothing wrong with that. Carolina rigging is a technique to get the lure to the bottom, keep it in contact with the structure, and to cover a lot of water with. So be versatile in your bait selection. Get out there and try it at different times of the year. Obviously, pre-spawn's a good time when the fish are scattered on the flats, because you can cover so much water to try to locate them big pre-spawned fish. But also during the summertime when fish are on structure, that is probably when it's my favorite time. And as we've seen today, and as we'll probably see some more this afternoon, it's a great technique to catch some good quality fish during the summertime.
Here we go. Yes! That fish hit it and ran at me with it. I just felt a tick, and he never did load up. He was moving at me with it. What are you doing? It doesn't feel like a real bad fish. He doesn't want to come up, that's for sure. Doesn't want to come up. Yeah, he's a big old fish. He thinks he is. Yeah, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. You gonna jump or not, huh? Too tired? Come on, you can jump. Oh, yeah, I knew you could jump. Let me get down there and get a little lip lock on you. Yeah. Hooked good, weren't you? Now that is a nice Carolina rig fish. We have found us one of them summertime spots, folks, that I think that's a perfect illustration of how they can group up to where when you find that special little place and you make that same cast time and time again, it is almost at every cast deal. And what will happen is we're going to fish here a while, and pretty soon it'll just go flat. You won't get any bites at all. And what happens, that school kind of spooks off. Let it sit for an hour or two and come back. Those fish will regroup and you'll catch them all over again. Something else I'll do before we leave, when they quit biting the Carolina rig, I'll try to catch them on something else, give them a different look. A lot of times you'll catch 2 or 3 more fish. Yeah, there's a good fish on a worm. Same place where I caught the fish on a Carolina rig. Get out of that Evinrude. Threw that worm in there, and that big old fish ate it. Where are you going, huh? Come here. You gonna come to me, huh? Are you gonna come to me? Yeah. Oh, come back, settle down, settle down. I got you now, yeah. Boy, you got a red beat up old tail. Nice fish. Man, did he make a power run? They're a strong fish. For as warm as this water is, we're looking at 90-degree water temperature or better. It's amazing how strong those fish are in that warm of water. But they are. They don't do a lot of jumping, but they sure pull hard. What I did there is you saw me catch those 2 fish off that road bed on the Carolina rig. And I fished around there for quite a bit, probably made another 6 or 7 casts with it, and never had another bite. I put this big old worm on, and the first cast through there, caught that good fish. A lot of times they get a little particular, and you need to give them 2 or 3 different looks. We'll see what happens on the next cast. Before I leave here, I probably better throw a crankbait through there.